everyone, welcome back to my channel, or hello if you are new here. My name is Shirley and today we're talking all about money and finances. Basically just finance tips that I wish I had known earlier in my days, and after talking to a couple of my friends about this topic, I realized just how little we are prepared for the real world. Like, we don't learn about investing or budgeting or anything like that in school. So I really wanted to make a video series about that. Honestly, I really want to make a budgeting slash money tips series. I do want to mention that I'm not a financial advisor. I don't do this for a living. I didn't study this stuff. Everything I'm about to tell you is all based on my personal experiences and my personal research. So please do your own research as well, but hopefully this video does help you out in some sort of way. I also wanted to do a quick little disclaimer about this video. I realized that the topic of money and finances is a very privileged standpoint, and I recognize that not a lot of people even have the ability to think about savings and think about retirement and things like that. And yeah, so everyone's in a different financial situation. Different people have like loans and debts, and everyone's just in a different situation. So with all the tips and advice that I share in this video, take what works for you. And yeah, also everything is more from a US centric point of view because that's what I know, but yes, wanted to put that out there before I got into the video. My goal with this video is that hopefully after you finish watching this video, you do all the tips, because they're very easy to do. It's just that we aren't informed of them as early on as we should be. Let's get into the video. Tip number one is to start your retirement account early. So you can actually start your account when you are 18 years old, regardless of whether you are fully employed or not. I started mine last year because I found out about this way too late, but I created a Roth IRA account with TD Ameritrade. TD Ameritrade is just one of the many different platforms you can use for your retirement account. I personally just chose them because my dad uses them and my brother uses them, so it's just what I know, but I have a couple of friends who use other websites as well. So there are two different retirement accounts that you can put your money into, and that is a Roth IRA account or an IRA account. And the main difference between the two are really just about taxes. So an IRA account, you actually get taxed when you take the money out when you retire, versus a Roth IRA where you get taxed now, but when you take out the money, you don't get taxed. So I personally chose the Roth IRA because I just much rather know how much money I will approximately be getting rather than have to pay like a bunch of taxes when I retire and when I take the money out. And there are set limits on both of the accounts. I'm not quite sure what the IRA one is, but for Roth IRA, the max that you can deposit is $6,000 a year. And I would definitely recommend trying to max out that $6,000 as much as you can, because of course there's the whole compound interest thing, and also why the advice is to start your retirement account as early as you can, because it can only grow from there. The earlier you start it and put in money, the more you will get from it versus when you start like even 2 or 3 years later. I low-key feel like a TikToker when I hold my mic like this, but hopefully the sound is better. I wanted to do a quick little example run through over what I just explained. So I found this example from a Money Under 30 article that explains that whole compounding interest situation a little bit more. So in this example, Michael contributes $1,000 a month starting at age 25 until 35 years old, and then he kind of just leaves it to accrue at a 7% rate until he retires, which is at 65 years old. Jennifer also contributes $1,000 a month, but she starts when she's 35 years old, stops when she's 45, and then leaves it to accrue until 65. And then Sam contributes / invests $1,000 a month as well, but she starts at 45, ends at 55, leaving it to accrue until 65. So even though they all save the exact same amount of $120,000 over 10 years, you can see how the ending balances are totally different just depending on when you start saving up. I started my Roth IRA last year when I was interning because I was earning a pretty decent amount of money, but I didn't have a 401k because I was just an intern and freelancing, which is why I started the Roth IRA. And then on that same note with a 401k, if you are fully employed, then your employer probably has some sort of retirement account for you, and companies also tend to match your contribution. And definitely make sure that you are maxing out your contribution or your match. So what that means is if your employer is willing to match up to 5% of your paycheck, then you should be depositing 5% of your paycheck into your 401k. So for example, if that 5% is $100 of your paycheck is going to go into your 401k, and then your employer is gonna give you $100 as well, because that is 5% and they are matching. And yeah, definitely would recommend contributing whatever they match, because that is free money that you would otherwise not get. And I personally do it automatically, where X% of my paycheck is placed into my 401k every payment cycle, so I never see the money. But yeah, I would definitely recommend starting your retirement account early and also maxing out on your employer's matching contribution on your 401k. Tip number 2 is to start investing early. Something I did not realize was that your money in your 401k or your Roth IRA or IRA account actually doesn't grow unless you invest it. I would hear about, obviously, like I mentioned, compound interest, things growing over time, and I thought that was just like an automatic thing that happened. Well, turns out it doesn't grow unless you invest it in things. Luckily, it isn't as scary as it may seem. I personally do super low risk investments. It's really personal preference and how, I guess, attentive you want to be to your stocks and your investments. So a higher risk is when you are investing in individual stocks, at least from my personal understanding. So that's like when you're purchasing Apple stocks or Disney stocks or Google stocks, versus a lower risk when you are investing in index funds and ETFs. And I personally do this realm of investment, at least with my 401k and my Roth IRA. That's where I put my money towards. The reason for that is because index funds tend to grow long term, albeit very slowly, but they do tend to grow long term. An index fund is basically like a grouping of a whole bunch of different stocks. If you have like 50 stocks in this one index fund, all of those 50 stocks are individually going to rise and fall, whatever. But in general, overall, it's going to be increasing, which is why it's a low risk and a long-term investment, because it will grow generally, but it will be a lot slower versus a higher risk investment. When you invest in Tesla, then it might like grow and spike a ton tomorrow, but then it might drop. So you could earn a lot of money or you could lose a lot of money, but it all depends on what you want. But make sure that you do start investing. I would suggest investing in a lower risk, kind of like an ETF or an index fund first. And I like to set it and forget it. Like, I just put my money there and then I just kind of leave it. Tip number 3 is something that, oh my goodness, I really wish I knew this earlier. And that is to start a high yield savings account. I'm sure you know, if you have a bank account, that you have a savings account, right? And if it's with one of the major banks like Bank of America, Chase, Wells Fargo, whatever it is, their APY tends to be like 0.01 to 0.04% maybe. So when you're getting interest for whatever money you have in that savings account with that percentage, I mean, I know I was getting like 10 cents one year or something, and I was like, that's awesome. Well, that is not awesome, because what you could be doing is actually putting your money in a high yield savings account where the APY is much higher, and you could be getting way more money than you are getting at your bank. So I personally use Betterment and Marcus. I chose them because of their high APY. They have no minimum requirement for like however much money you have to have in the account. There's no withdrawal limits. So definitely shop around for whatever account that you end up using, because there are a ton of options out there, and it's really it's like free money, just like the 401k. It's free money that you could be getting just by putting your money in a different bank. And of course, make sure that they are FDIC insured so that everything is safe. But yeah, this is like the biggest thing, because you could be saving a lot in your savings account with your major bank, but you could be earning like way more when you put your money into a high yield savings account. That's like so much money that you could be earning that you're not, just because your money is in the wrong place. My next tip is to open a credit card when you turn 18 so that you can finally start building up that credit. And credit is super important when you are renting an apartment or when you are renting or getting a car, whatever it is. Credit is just very important in a lot of big purchases, and a great way to build credit is actually through your credit card. So making sure that you are paying off all your payments in a consistent basis, paying it off in full, and not racking up credit card debt, which is one of the potential cons to starting and opening your credit card early. But I would recommend having a credit card that is dedicated to something consistent that you're able to pay off every single month without fail. And of course, I would definitely recommend having a credit card that gives you a lot of great perks. Just make sure that you check what the annual fee is, if there are any points that you might get. I currently use a card where I get a lot of points on travel, which doesn't make sense this year at all, but it does make sense all the other years. I'm able to get points from spending, and then I can spend those points on airline tickets and hotels and save a lot of money that way. My next tip is to start tracking your expenses and your earnings. I didn't start doing this until honestly early this year, and I found it super helpful in terms of figuring out like how much I'm spending and saving on average every single month. And it's super helpful when you end up starting to budget and when you want to start investing in bigger purchases. So I definitely start doing this. I have mine up in like my Google Sheets. I can leave a template down below if you guys would like, or go over it in a future video. But yeah, I just keep track of my paychecks that I get, any other side money that I get from like photography or from blogging or anything like that. And then I make sure to track my expenses from shopping and food and travel and subscriptions and all of those things. And it's a great way to really understand where all of your money is going, especially like which specific categories, and even where like in the future, if you wanted to cut back, where you can see like, oh, I could cut back on this, or I could spend less money in this section and stuff like that. My final tip is to be smart with your spending and also compare prices. So when it comes to things like traveling or shopping or grocery shopping, making sure that you're trying to find the best deal and using coupons and things like that. In the description box of my videos, I always have discount codes from Airbnb, Outdoor Voices, a whole bunch of different brands if you guys are interested in using those. But online there are always a bunch of codes going around, and really just having that mindset of trying to get the best deal. And especially when it comes to shopping, I now have shifted my mindset to always trying to make sure that I double check if I can get that item secondhand, checking Depop, Poshmark, OfferUp, Facebook Marketplace, things like that, because there could be the same exact item in perfect condition at a much lower price that someone wants to get rid of, that needs a new home. So I know that's something that I've been trying to work on a lot, making sure that I'm checking those secondhand sites and trying to purchase things secondhand for things that don't necessarily have to be brand new. So those were all the finance tips that I wanted to share in this particular video. Let me know if this was helpful and which tip you found the most helpful or the most surprising. And if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them down below. I'll try and get to them and answer them to the best of my ability. But if you liked this video and would like more, please give this a thumbs up and comment down below what other money, budgeting, finance type of videos you would like to see from me. Don't forget to subscribe. I have new videos every single Sunday, and I will talk to you guys in my next one.